Hello folks, this is Byron Pass. I'm SGA with the Byron Pass offices in Oakville, Ontario. The following video is made in an effort of providing you tips and practices as to what habits to develop in making presentations in the field. It's not anything that you're going to necessarily find in a script, what I'm going to be talking about in this video, but more so in habits that you want to develop in making good presentations. Some of this is actually common sense, however, it's still something that we're going to talk about simply because we want to make sure that you're keeping these things in check as you're developing in this business. So there's going to be a few things I'm going to be talking about in this video, from preparing yourself, your mental attitude before you walk into a presentation, preparing your supplies, and a number of things. It's a video that preludes scripting, so it's not going to be necessarily on how to present, but many of the things that have to be in place in order to make powerful and great presentations, right? So starting out, the number one most important thing before you're making presentations is making sure that your attitude is in the right place. Having a positive mental attitude before you start, I believe, any task puts you ahead. If your mind is not in the right place, chances are you're not going to perform at your very best. So one of the number one things you have to make sure you keep in check as you perform in this business is the way you're thinking. There's no neutral there. There's no being neutral. It's either you're being positive or you're being negative. The effect of being negative in this business has a great cost, simply because a lot of what we do is actually based off of our attitudes. So your attitude is perhaps the most important aspect of this business, and something that's 100% in your control. In this business, you are going to be facing challenges each and every day, and you do have a choice as to what attitude you're going to display when you face challenges. So my number one advice to you as you embark on this career is make sure that your attitude is always positive as you embark on anything that you do. Yes, there's going to be a challenge in learning new things, but your attitude is 100% in your control. So they have a very good saying that says every battle is won before it's fought. So in your mind, you have to know that you are going to be doing a good job. You are going to be doing something very noble for people, which is providing them with the option to insure themselves or giving them life insurance to protect their loved ones. And I think that in and of itself is a very noble thing to do and to allow people to do. And you should always feel positive about that. So number one, first and foremost, is your attitude. Make sure that it's kept positive. The next thing that's really important in this business is you have to, and I think it goes hand in hand with attitude, is you have to make sure you look the part. To me, there's no such thing as being underdressed in what we do. We are insurance professionals, and as such, we should dress as professionals. Meaning, gentlemen, there's no such thing as being underdressed in the field. A very simple way I explain to my team, whether you're dressed or not, is this. If when you finish your field day, you can get home and sort of relax in the exact same clothes that you wear when you were in the field, in other words, you don't have the need to change, it's probably because you're underdressed. So when it comes to gentlemen specifically, you got to be looking the part. So jacket, tie, some of you may be able to get away without a tie, and just a nice crisp, very well ironed shirt and jacket, right? So no jeans, no sneakers, no shorts into the field or any of those things. You wouldn't respect someone that is conducting business if they came dressed that way to your home. So why should clients look at you any differently? So you need to make sure that you're looking the part. Ladies have a little bit more flexibility when dressing. Nonetheless, it is business attire in the field at all times. So number one, your attitude. Number two, your dress. Making sure that you're looking the part, making sure you smell good too. Very, very important as we go into people's homes, that we're dressed the part and we're looking the part. The next thing is making sure that all your supplies are in order. So I have my laptop here ready, and one of the things that it happens sometimes is that if you don't do an update on your laptop and you put it away into your bag and it's just been sitting there for 1 or 2 days because you were not in the field, you won't be able to go back into the field and actually have it operational. You must be doing an update every 3 days. Now, that's just a simple thing. The system is set up so that if you don't update your system at least once every 3 days, you won't be able to do work offline. The only way that you can be able to do work offline is to make sure that you're updating your laptop once every 3 days. So one of the easiest ways to make sure that you're prepared to go into the field is that before you leave home, make sure your laptop is fully operational. Go ahead and do an update while you're home to make sure that it's ready to go into the field. The next thing that's really important is to make sure that your laptop actually looks good, that it's not all smudged up and it doesn't have like coffee stains on it or things like that. That doesn't look professional in the eyes of the client. Make sure that, if you are working off your laptop, that the screen is nice and clear. Buy a screen cleaner or something of that nature to make sure that the screen is fully visible and legible. Make sure that your volume is working and everything in your laptop is functional before you go into the field. Another thing that's really important to make sure that you have it in order is your presentation folders. I've seen it happen many times where an agent goes into the field and their folders are not even complete. In other words, they're missing claim forms, they're missing no-cost benefits, and it really tells something to the client. Whenever you're making a presentation and the folder is not complete, and it seems like you're shuffling papers, it doesn't tell them that you're somebody who's prepared. And the problem that creates is that if they see you unprepared, they're going to assume our company is the same way. So it's very important and it's very simple to do this. Make sure that every single folder, and again, you may carry 3, 4, 5 folders every time you go into the field, are fully prepared to make a presentation. Whether you keep the no-cost benefits in the folder or you simply pull them out, make sure that you have what you need before you go into the field and you're making presentations. Simply because I have seen it happen where somebody just jumps into the field, they start making a presentation to the client, and all of a sudden they open up their folder and they actually don't have what they need to have in order to make that presentation. So something simple is make sure that your folder is fully in order, they're all prepared. Make sure you're getting a crisp, brand new folder from the office. One of the things I really believe in is that if you have a client that's becoming your client, somebody buying a policy from you, is that you give them a brand new folder. I would not appreciate if I purchase something from a company and they give me a folder that looks old or looks like it has, again, stains on it, or it looks like it's been around. I mean, everyone can tell that. In the office, we keep folders under lock in a cabinet to make sure they look new and they look crisp, so that when you receive your folders and you're building your folders to go into the field, make presentations and make sales, that the folders look brand new. So always make sure that you have brand new folders that look new. If you've had a folder in your bag for too long and it's been in and out of your bag, it's gonna have wear and tear. I do not want those folders to be given to our clients. They deserve to have a brand new crisp folder when they're making the purchase of our policies. So make sure that you have a brand new crisp folder that you're going to be giving to your client when that is the case. The next thing that's really important is to make sure that you have your binder in order. Now, this is something that you're going to learn in your training class, which is how to build your AIL binder. This is a binder in which you're going to have every single union and union letter necessary in order to make the presentations. This is a binder that you're going to, over time, populate with more and more letters as you receive lead assignments. Each lead that you receive will have a union letter and the corresponding mandatory read-off letter. So it's very important that as you build your binder, so just take one here to give you an example, is that if I'm sitting across the table from John and Mary, and I know they're, for example, members of the SCIU Healthcare, that I can easily go into my binder and take out the union letter for their group, for their union, and make the presentation accordingly. And this is, again, goes back to being prepared. When your binder is fully stocked with all the letters that you need to have before you go into the field, then you know you're going to be able to find what you need and be able to use it. This is again just making sure that your toolbox is ready, making sure that all the tools in your box are ready to be used before you go into the field. Now, this is extremely important because one of the most important portions of the presentation is the mandatory read-off letter. The mandatory read-off letter is a section of the presentation that is very important because it's when you transition from no cost benefits into the cost benefits. And every single union that we work with has a mandatory read-off letter, and your binder would be where you keep those letters. Also, something important is in your binder itself, you should have sample policies. So here in the office, we have sample policies for whole life, term life, A71, and the cancer policy. You should always have your sample policies with you in your binder so that you may show a prospective client what their policy is going to look like. And that's the purpose of the sample policies. We know the laptop is going to bring up a screenshot of a sample policy, but to me it's much more powerful when you can actually take a sample policy and give it to the client. That way they can actually touch it, feel it, smell it if they want to, and they have the actual policy in front of them. So be sure to have the sample policies with you also at all times. So the next thing that's really important is once you have everything prepared with you and you're prepared to make a presentation, talking about rapport building right now. When it comes to rapport building, you have to be very observant of all the surroundings in the household. And to me, the presentation actually starts before you walk into the house. So as you look at the surroundings of the outside of the house, does this person have a very neat garden? Here's what I know. If somebody has a very neat garden, it means they spend time in their garden. It means they really value, the way their house looks, the curb appeal of their home, right? So it's something that you may comment about. If you walk into the house and there is, a lot of hockey sticks by the front door, that means it's a hockey family. So these are things that you need to be observant about before you walk into the house. So you may find something to talk about with those individuals, with that family. For example, if you get to the house and on the driveway they have a boat, then it's very likely they like to fish, or they go up north to the cottages, or whatever the case may be. You have to be observant of the surroundings, not just inside the house once you walk in, but outside the house as well, where you may find something to talk about even before they open up the door. Another very common thing, again common sense, but you have to mention it, is one of the first things I say as I walk into somebody's house is I ask them if I can leave my shoes at the door. Now, let the truth be told, there are times where I don't want to take off my shoes because I could see that there's quite the mess on somebody's floor. However, I'm still going to offer to take off my shoes because out of courtesy, we live in Canada where it snows 6 months out of the year, and we may be walking in with snowy shoes, for example, and we're going to ask if we can leave our shoes at the front door. You're going to find that a lot of times people are just going to tell you, actually, it's okay, you can leave your shoes on, and then it's fine, you don't have to take them off. But I always signal that I'm going to take off my shoes, or I signal that, is it okay if I take my shoes here, or leave my shoes here, John? So very important to do that. The next thing that's really important as you walk in to the home is to keep observing the surroundings. Do they have a lot of pictures on the wall of their family? Is there anything very specific that you may not see in other homes? These are things that you want to pay attention to and perhaps comment about. Because, for example, if you see an amazing art piece on the wall, or you see something very specific that you may not see somewhere else, you want to make sure that you notice it and you mention it to them. Because if it's something very specific, chances are it's something very important to them, right? So, but most of the time you want to make sure that you're noticing pictures on the wall, family pictures, right? If somebody has a lot of pictures of the family, that means that they're very family-oriented type of people. And you want to make sure that you notice that, or you comment on that, or you make sure you bring it as a topic of conversation as you're building rapport. Another thing is to make sure that if you are going to compliment someone on anything, that's a sincere compliment. I believe that today anyone can smell a phony. So if you're going to comment on something that you really don't like or don't find interesting, I think that it's gonna, they're gonna feel that. So anything you choose to comment on, make sure it's sincere. So for example, I don't believe in commenting to everybody, oh my God, you have such a beautiful home, because if I don't believe the person has a beautiful home, I'm not going to say they have a beautiful home. Because what happens a lot of the times, and I've seen this happen with people, is that they make a comment and they may say, oh my God, you have a beautiful home. But what if the person that lives there doesn't actually like their house? Is that possible? I think it is. So what happens is they may not feel that as a sincere compliment. So just be careful with what you're going to compliment on. Make sure that it's actually a sincere compliment. Make sure that it's something that you truly see as unique, as amazing, as worth commenting on. And that way it's going to be sincere. Also, very important when you walk into the house is that you, first of all, you ask them where they have a kitchen or dining table. You want to avoid making presentations in the living room, because the living room is a place where it's too relaxed to make a presentation. Presentations are to be done on the kitchen and dining table. And also, you're going to decide where John and Mary, for example, are going to be sitting down. It's very important that when you do your seating arrangement, that you can achieve what we call the triangle. The triangle is where if this is the screen right here, and I'm sitting over here, that John and Mary are on this side. So this is the triangle right here, and the screen is right there, where all of us can have peripheral vision of what's happening on the laptop. A mistake that agents can make is that if you put the laptop in front of you like this, I can't possibly react to the videos on the laptop. And part of the videos, impact that the videos can have is my reaction to the videos. If I'm not in a position where I can actually have full vision of the video, then any reaction that I have to the video is not going to seem real. Simply because how could I have a reaction to a video if I'm not looking at it at the right angle? It's almost like if you went to the theater, you wouldn't think of sitting right by the exit door, that it's almost parallel to the screen, right? You're going to miss the whole thing, right? You want to sit all the way to the back, hopefully, right, or the middle, so you can have full vision of the whole screen. The same happens with the laptop presentation. We want to be able to sit and have them sit down in a way where this is the triangle. So one side here, one side there, there's John, there's Mary, and then back to me here. And that's we call that the love triangle. So that there's the love triangle between the member, the agent, and the laptop, and that there's peripheral vision onto the laptop, where I'm looking at it from an angle, and the angle they're looking at it. So this here is a 90-degree angle right here from where they're looking at it, right? Very important. Another thing that's very important is to make sure that when you are talking to John and Mary, you say their names. It's really bad if you tell John, so John, I see that you put your wife as beneficiary for the AD&D, and the wife's right there. Her name's Mary. So the right thing to do is to say, John, I see that Mary, you're John's beneficiary, and I talked to John and I talked to Mary. Never refer to Mary as your wife, John, when the wife's right at the table. Never refer to John as your husband, Mary, when the husband's right at the table. You have to address people by their names. There's something magical that happens when you actually say someone's name. Actually, they turn to look at you. So this is one of the ways where you're going to actually be engaging both husband and wife by their first name. And it's John and it's Mary, whatever the names are going to be, of course. You want to make sure that you're addressing them by their name. So a very simple exercise to do before you walk into the house is repeat their names out loud, if you need to, 5 times. So John and Mary, John and Mary, John and Mary, John and Mary, John and Mary. It's very hard for me to forget now what their names are because I just repeated it 5 times in my head. Not in my head, I actually said the names, right? Now, that's an exercise. Just make sure you're not shouting their names before you walk into the house, but do it while you're in your vehicle. But make sure that you are referring to John and Mary by their first name. Another really important thing as you are making a presentation is to make sure that you do have undivided attention. A mistake sometimes agents make is that they start the presentation without one of the spouses at the kitchen or dining table. And let me tell you, when you do that, what's going to happen is you may start building rapport with one spouse, but by the time the other spouse joins the presentation, they're not at the same level. And then what happens is one may have more trust for you than the other. This is why we never make one-legged presentations. The presentation is only made when you have both parties available. When you have John and when you have Mary available. If it is a case where you knock on the door, John is home but Mary's not, you don't even walk into that house. What you should do is take a step back and say, you know what, John, I'm actually running behind for my next member. I'm going to have to come back when Mary's home. By the way, which car in the driveway signals that Mary's home? What does she drive? She drives a Chevy, blue Chevy, wonderful. So if the blue Chevy's on the driveway, that means Mary's home. Awesome, I'll be back when the blue Chevy's on the driveway. Perfect. Then if I go have to see somebody else and I drive back and the Chevy's not in the driveway, I'm not going to walk into that house. But if I drive back and the Chevy's on the driveway, well, that means Mary's home. I can make my presentation now. But it's very important not even to walk in. That's why when you knock on the door, and let's say John opens the door, and you say, hi, I'm Byron from AIL. I'm here to see John and Mary. You must be John. Yes, I'm John. Is Mary home? Oh, yeah, you know, she went shopping. She'll be back in 10 minutes. 10 minutes? Yeah, right, 10 minutes shopping. You know what, John? Again, you're not going to say that in front of John. You're simply going to say, you know what, John, I'm actually running behind time. Why don't I come back when Mary's home? I can't do my job without her. And then you go back when both spouses are there. So you don't even walk in the house if you have one spouse that is missing. Simply because they will push you to make the presentation and you're actually going to be making a one-legged presentation. Another very easy way to build very good rapport with the family, and again, part of presentation training is we're going to teach you which questions to ask in the rapport building, is by mirroring. In other words, mirroring is when you ask someone a question and whatever the answer is, you repeat it back to them. Not in a way of just repeating their answers, but in a way of, in conversation, it seems like you're pleasantly surprised by someone's answers. For example, I asked John, so John, where are you originally from? And he says, well, I'm from Sudbury. You're from Sudbury? Oh, wow, that's great. You know, I've been to Sudbury a few times. So I'm repeating the answer back to him. That helps my retention of information so I don't have to ask the same question later on. Here's why. If you're asking somebody a question and they give you the answer, and then 20 minutes later you're asking the same question, it really means you're not paying attention to them. And of course they're not going to say, well, Byron, you're not paying attention to us. They're simply going to realize that because they already know they gave you the answer to that question. So practice mirroring whenever you're building rapport with people, where whatever the answer to any question in conversation, you simply repeat it back to them. It also gives you an opportunity to think of what your next question is going to be. And anytime you're repeating any answer from somebody that you just asked the question to, it also tells them you are listening to them. And I've always found that the easiest way to persuade people is not with your mouth, but with your ears. Learn how to persuade people by listening to them, by asking questions and engaging in conversation with them. So practice mirroring and repetition of whatever the information that is given to you. Another thing that's really important, especially because we work in the GTA, my office is in Oakville. As an SGA, I've been in the Oakville-Burlington area since December of 2013. But I've been with the company since November of 2002. And in the 13 years now, in fact, that I've been with American Income, I've been blessed to work in a very diverse territory, which is the Greater Toronto area, the Greater Hamilton area, and now also into the Tri-City area, which is Kitchener, Cambridge, and Waterloo. And also we do some work up north. But 90% of our production comes from these territories. This is as diverse as it gets. In Toronto alone, there's over 100 different languages spoken in the streets of Toronto, which means that we're bound to meet people from every walk of life in every corner of this planet, which to me is absolutely fascinating. Now, when it comes to selling life insurance, what I realize is that I have to have the ability to connect with different types of people. And that's something that is just not going to happen just because, I love what I do, though I do. It's going to happen because I'm going to be intentional in finding out about these different cultures in different parts of the world. I'll give you an example. We work a lot with the European community. In other words, people from Italy, Portugal, Eastern Europe, Poland, Croatia, etc. And I know, I've learned over the years how to build rapport with those individuals, to the point that if somebody says to me, I'm from Croatia, as an example, I know the capital of Croatia, I know many islands in Croatia, I know many things about Croatia, not because I've actually been to Croatia, but let's say if you haven't been to Croatia, right? How could you build rapport with somebody that's from Croatia? Well, very simple. If I meet somebody from Croatia, like it happened to me the first time, I made it a point to go back home and Wikipedia that country and actually read the whole Wikipedia page on that country, so that next time when I met somebody from Croatia, I was better prepared. I could have a conversation with them about their home country. That's just one example. If I meet people from Portugal or Italy or any other European country, it is the exact same thing. You know, these are very, countries that actually love soccer or football, as I call it, right? So even just that alone allows me, I mean, I'm a soccer fan. I realize not everybody is going to be a soccer fan, but to me, it's like, okay, I know a lot about that and I can always talk about that. But beyond that, there's many other things you can talk about with somebody from places, from those places in the world. But again, you have to be intentional about it. You may meet people from South Asia, right? Same thing. Be intentional about finding out more about them so that you can connect with them. Ultimately, people are going to buy from us because they like us and they trust us. How do you become likable? How do you earn somebody's trust? Is by making a legitimate connection. A connection that says, I'm like you, we're very similar. Or, I like the things you like, etc. These are basically the bonds that are created as you're building rapport with somebody or with an individual or a family. And in some cases, simply knowing about them makes your job a lot easier, because they realize, wow, he knows who we are. Knowing who somebody is or knowing where somebody comes from could be something very touching for another individual, but you have to do your homework. So I beseech upon you that, of course, if you're watching this video, that means you work in my agency, that you study people, study the diversity that we have in this part of Canada. It is absolutely amazing. I've met many people from many walks, So as I was saying, working in this company, working in the GTA, I've had the chance to meet people from every walk of life, every corner of this planet. It's something that's to be appreciated about this territory. So do your homework. Make sure that you do study people and the people that we meet, the countries of these people that we have the privilege to serve each and every day, and make it something fascinating, because I truly believe it is a fascinating thing about this territory. I'm someone that has been in the company for 13 years. I've been in the field in different territories of the United States, in Canada also, and I absolutely love this territory that we have our agency in, and that we have the privilege to work with. So study the people in our territory to make sure that you can be the best at connecting with them. And the final habit of all these habits that we discussed about is the habit of making sure that you keep in check is that no matter what, this is about numbers and presentation count. What I mean by that is that no matter which way you slice this business, it is about making enough presentations each and every week to make sure that you're going to get the results based on your goals. So it is a numbers game no matter what. It is a business that is measured by activities which lead to production. Having said that, if the number of presentations that you're aiming for, as an example, each and every single week is 15, make sure that is your goal, and that you're not going to stop until you hit that number, simply because having the presentation count is what will allow you to actually develop all these habits. If you're not having enough presentations, these habits are meaningless or useless, because you're never going to develop them if you don't have enough presentations. So it is where one hand washes the other. Having the presentation count will allow you to develop the right habits to make sure you're going to make great presentations or powerful presentations. Ultimately, this is a business where, if you're having high levels of activity but you're not getting the results, is because something in your presentation is broken. Something needs to be fixed within your presentation to make sure that you're going to get the results. But if you're having I mean, you can have the best presentation in the world. If you're not giving it to enough people, it doesn't matter because no one's seeing it. So it is ultimately about presentation count, because when you have the presentation count, then your results will if you're doing things right, the results will show. If you're not doing things right, the results will show. Either way, there's something to fix. But without presentation counts being high, and let's just call it double digit or greater, meaning 10 or more presentations a week, then you stand a chance of developing good habits, sharpening your skill set and honing your skills and presentation skills and everything that we do within a presentation, collecting referrals, rolling appointments from the house, building good rapport, and building all those habits we talked about today. So ultimately, it is about making enough presentations each and every single week so you can have the opportunity to build those habits. And ultimately, this is a business where it gets easier the longer you're here, not because the business gets easier, but because you get better. The clients, the market conditions, the people out there, they're gonna be pretty much the same. It's your skill set that augments over time, and that's what brings the results. But how can your skill set augment this? Only through presentation count. Ultimately, it's by doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it, you're gonna get better at it. But you have to be intentional. This video is made so that I can pinpoint certain habits that are not necessarily going to be in the script that we give you, but you need to know and keep in check every single time that you go into the field. So let's just recap everything. We talked about making sure that your attitude is in the right place, making sure that you look the part, dress the part, smell the part, making sure that all your tools, meaning your laptop, your supplies, your folders, you're prepared with them, that you have them, first of all, that they're neatly neatly organized, prepared for a presentation for the client, making sure your laptop's fully updated, that it looks like it's a laptop, clean and it's not all messed up or messy, making sure your binder is in place, that you have all the union letters and sample policies in place. On rapport building, make sure that you're observant of the surroundings, both outside the house and once you're in the home. Once in the home, making sure that you always make the presentation at the kitchen or dining table, no living rooms, too relaxed of an environment to make a presentation. Making sure that you do the love triangle when you are sitting down at the kitchen or dining table, making sure that you have John and Mary where you need to have them so that the presentation can have the impact it can have. And you can also react to the videos, because when the videos are playing, it has to seem that you are reacting to them and you're believing those videos, even though you've seen them 1,000 times. It's the first time they see it, right? So it has to seem to you that you're seeing that video also for the first time. And again, I can probably recite the videos at this point and say exactly what the video is going to say, word for word. It's pretty scary, actually. However, I still look at the video and I react to it as though it's the first time I'm looking at it, because for them it is the first time. So very important to keep that in mind. So be observant of the surroundings once again. Sincere compliments have more weight than any insincere compliment, right? So make sure that if you are going to compliment something, it's sincere. It's because you really mean it, right? Something important actually too is that going back to when we're in the homemaking presentations, right? I'll give you an example. I am allergic to cats. I can't be around cats. Cat hair gives me allergies, and if you have cats around me, I will pretty soon start having watery eyes and sneezing, and I'm going to have an allergic reaction. Now, the truth is this: it has to be pretty bad. If there's a lot of cat hair in the air, then I'm going to get an allergic reaction. So, for example, if I'm making a presentation to John and Mary and in comes a cat, I'm not going to say, well, I'm allergic to cats, can you please get it away? Of course not. I'm going to say, well, look at that beauty. Isn't it wonderful, right? And I'm going to try not to have it disturb my presentation, because they probably love their cat, like most people love their pets, but I'm not going to make a negative reaction to it. Now, if it's pretty bad, I would probably notice it the minute I walk in the house. If they have several cats, if they have like 5 or 6 cats, then it would be a problem for me. And I probably should not make that presentation myself. I would give that to somebody else to make a presentation to. But the same thing goes with dogs, right? Now, I love dogs. I grew up with dogs all my life. I don't mind dogs, right? So when I walk into a house and they do have a dog, I'm going to say, okay, well, beautiful dog, and I'll pat it and I'll play with it, right? Very important. The same happens when people have small children. As a parent myself, right? Children are the most important thing in our lives, actually, right? So make sure that you're complimenting on their children, and make sure it's sincere too, right? Going back to it, with the whole making sure that you're giving people sincere compliments. The next one is mirroring, making sure that you are mirroring on the answers that they give you to make sure that you increase the retention of information from the conversation that you're having with the client, so that you don't have to re-ask questions of information that was already given to you earlier in the presentation. And last but not least, once again, I was just finishing talking about it, is activity. No matter which way you slice this business, it is a numbers game. And you have to be able to make enough presentations to make sure that you ultimately have the numbers and the production that you desire to have. This business, whether you're going to be a producer or a leader and get into management, it is about metrics and measuring certain metrics. No matter which way you slice them, the numbers don't lie. I have found in life that people lie, numbers don't, right? And it's in making sure that you have the numbers to make sure that you can develop certain habits, such as the ones we discussed in this video. So in closing, this video is something that you probably want to observe several times, so that you make sure that you're keeping these things in check. Watching only one time will probably not do you any good, but reviewing this information a week from now, 3 weeks from now, 6 months from now will help you, because all of these things will sink in and it will become a second nature to you. Thank you.